I've been with Tina for 6 years. But I never got her to marry me. I got jumped and robbed in an alleyway. I dialed her up. She said he was just her assistant. In this foreign country, she suspected someone was tailing him. It was dangerous. You've been suffocating me for years. I'll just marry you when I get back. Okay? She hung up. I got my throat slit, dead in an alley abroad. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 6 years ago. This time, marrying her wasn't on my mind. Ben, I love you. You promised if I won this race, you'd be with me. I saw 19-year-old Tina sitting on a motorbike. She was confessing her love with such passion and sincerity. Back then, she was bold and fierce. Her beauty was stunning, captivating. Those almond-shaped eyes, when filled with emotion, were seriously mesmerizing. The summer heat was on, searing. Tears almost welled up in my eyes. I stared at her, dazed. I got a second chance, back 6 years. It felt like ages since she had looked at me with such love. Couldn't really remember the last time. In my memories, it was mostly her cold stares, telling me to stop being silly. This race, we had a bet going. I said if she could outrun me on this track, I'd be with her. She went full throttle at a deadly turn to win, narrowly escaping death. She got the championship. I rushed to her, hugged her tight. Tears just spilled over. Right there, she kissed me in front of everyone. And then began our 6-year entanglement. She loved me fiercely. Anyone who said kinda mean things about me, she'd practically knock their teeth out. Racing was my passion. She'd fall and get back on her bike time and again just to chat with me. Once, my coughing from secondhand smoke made her quit smoking altogether. Whenever I was around, no one dared to smoke. Everyone around her said they'd never seen her love someone this much. I always thought the spot of Tina's husband belonged to me. I really believed we could last forever. Until she left me dead in the street for another guy. By the 5th year, things turned sour. She started staying out late. Got hints of men's cologne on her. She told me she had to socialize, couldn't avoid it. I brought up marriage. She'd give me that look, like I was pushing her. When I suggested breaking up, she'd bring gifts, plead about how much she loved and needed me, but said marriage was still too soon. Wanted to wait until her business was more solid. 5 years of memories, all the good filled my mind, so I caved. But all I got was her falling for another guy, Eric. Eric was her assistant. She saved him in a bar, after his dad sold him off to pay gambling debts. Said he'd work as her assistant for 2 years to pay back 10 grand. From being annoyed he didn't know anything, to working overtime guiding him. Tina even took him on a business trip to the US. Without telling me, I found out at a sponsor dinner. Watched her with him, a woman getting all handsy with Eric. Tina raised her hand, about to slap. She calmed him. Don't worry, you're safe with me. Eric asked if she'd protect him forever. Tina didn't answer, but saw me at the end of the hallway. I clamped my jaw shut, blood taste in my mouth, heart aching. That's when I knew she could care so much for another man. Pretty sure from the get-go, there was something special about him. Tina wasn't saintly, more of a fierce protector. Could smile sweetly while breaking bones. I turned away, exited fast, drove like a maniac. She chased me in her car, tried to block me. I crashed, almost flipped. With shaky hands, I stopped my car. Seeing her unharmed, I collapsed on the hood. She hurried over, hugged me tight. She explained, "He's my responsibility. I've got to keep him safe." She pulled out a ring, slipped it on my finger. "I plan to marry you after this deal, surprise you with something big." But then she chose Eric over me on a call. Left me in the street. Eric, panic-stricken, said, "Boss, someone's tailing me. I'm scared. Is it someone you crossed?" Line cut out. Tina said she had things to handle, told me to head back. Drove off, leaving me fumes. Then I got a text. Eric sent a ring picture. A note for a customer apology. Swapped the ring for a necklace 3 months back. The ring I had was a prop. All the marriage talk, just sweet talk. Just a band-aid over empty promises. No wonder weddings kept getting postponed. I called him out. "Weren't you in danger?" His comeback, Tina's already rescuing me, right? Think 6 years together gives you the right to bind her? I was just testing her. When I hugged her, her heart was pounding. She's into me, saying, she's tired of you. I'll fill you in on the details eventually. I never had the chance to go back. Someone covered my mouth and dragged me into an alley. 2 foreigners were there. They told me to hand over everything valuable I had. After I did, they looked at me with a sleazy expression. They began to touch me. I struggled and in the chaos, found my phone had fallen to the ground. I pressed a speed dial. No clue who I called. The moment it connected, I heard Tina's annoyed voice. She was just my assistant, but out here in a foreign land, she was worried someone was following her. Very dangerous. She said, I can't breathe. I'll marry you when I get back. All right? Then she hung up, and I didn't have the chance to make another call. One of them covered my mouth again while the other started taking off my clothes. I bit his palm and kicked one of them between the legs. Furious, they swore. I felt a knife slice my throat. Blood gushed out, and I died there at the alley entrance in a foreign country. But then I was reborn 6 years ago. This time I didn't want to marry her. As I looked at her smiling eyes, I felt no flutter of excitement. My gaze was cold. This time, even if it kills me, I won't let her win the race. Tina seemed stunned by my words, and all the cheering around us went silent. I put on my helmet and focused on the road ahead. The only thing in my mind was winning this race. I couldn't make the same mistake with her again. As the gunshot rang out, I sped off like an arrow. Tina's car stuck to my left, not letting go. Soon we reached a narrow turn, only wide enough for one. In my previous life, feelings for her held me back here. But not this time. I accelerated without hesitation. I heard people saying that I was crazy, speeding at such a dangerous corner. I must have become ruthless toward Tina. This move gave me a big lead, and Tina, forced to slow down, crashed off the track. Quickly, I crossed the finish line. Tina got back on her feet, but her car was totaled. Holding her injured shoulder, she stared at me. Calmly, I flipped her off, picked up the trophy, and left without a backward glance. She hobbled after me, pulling on my hand, her face a mix of panic. Do you really hate me that much? So much that you'd risk everything at such a dangerous turn just to cut ties? She asked. We were supposed to be together. I chuckled, shaking her hand off without mercy. Who do you think you are? Just because you chase me, I should agree? You lost this race. Stop bothering me. You're annoying. Tina's face turned sour. She was a well-off, high society lady who'd never lowered herself so much for anyone. Before, I hadn't agreed to be with her but never said anything this cruel, especially in front of so many people. Angrily, she retorted, Ben, you'll regret this. I laughed lightly and replied, never. I veered around her and rode off. Riding along the mountain road, I reflected on everything. Regret? My biggest regret was being with you in the first place. Couldn't even outlast the 7-year itch before you fell for someone else. I first met Tina at a banquet. I was wild and unruly, only to embarrass my dad. I swapped a watch my stepmother planned to gift him for a green hat at his birthday party. Smiling, I declared, Dad, this hat suits you perfectly. You betrayed Mom, and now another woman's betrayed you. Serves you right. His face turned sour. He smashed a teacup against my head. With blood dripping, I smiled back, telling him there was another surprise. My stepmom was an old-school actress, but all her resources came through shady means. At that party, I played all the videos of her affairs with too many men. My dad's face turned greener than the hat I gave him. My stepmom was about to slap me when I countered. She ruined my once happy family. She seduced my dad into divorcing Mom and dared to send their intimate videos to her, mocking her for being old and unable to keep a man. Though she was my dad's first love, it didn't matter. He said my mom was dull and he was tired of her. In the end, sent Mom an ultrasound scan and demanded a divorce, even offering 35% of the company's shares to her. Mom's postpartum depression returned, and she jumped from a building. My dad soon married this woman. She pretends to be nice to me at first, but later shows her true colors, leaving bruises on me and not letting me eat. Justice hit her when, trying to outdo a starlet at a gala, she fell and lost her pregnancy and any chance to bear kids again. My dad moved on to other women, but perhaps his antics had caught up to him, for none bore him a child. At 18, I inherited the shares my mom left me, holding 35% of the company. I didn't have to show him any respect. He yelled at me to get lost. If not for those shares, I'd have left the family long before. I turned to leave when my stepmom, in a fit, grabbed a knife, intending to kill me in front of everyone. Crazy, for sure. Tina kicked her down and security pinned her. Bold move to attempt murder there. Looked like she was heading to jail for sure. Our eyes met, and her amber gaze was on me with amusement, like seeing a rare, fascinating prey. This party was supposed to be boring, yet here was an interesting person. "What's your name?" she asked. Her looks were striking, naturally noble. She did save me, so even as a rebellious teen, I answered. Then, summer breeze, stirring the heart. "You're like a flirt," she commented. "If I was serious, I'd ask you to marry me. But men like my dad lessen my interest," I replied. "Tina, remember it. It's your future girlfriend's name." After that, she transferred to my school. She learned car racing when she discovered I liked it. There was this one time when she crashed her bike. Her friend Mike called me to check on her. She was lying in bed with her arm in a sling, mad that Mike told me about it. She wanted to show off once she got really good. Right then, that was the first time I caught feelings for her. You see, I've been into bikes, but everyone else just tells me it's dangerous and to stay away. She was the first who wanted to join me. She even got into a fight with another girl from our class who tried to ask me out but failed. That girl couldn't get over it, so she insulted me, saying I had no manners. The next day, Tina showed up with a bruised cheek. Eric told me she fought that girl and knocked out her teeth. I never saw that girl again. She transferred schools. Tina once confessed to me on the flag-raising platform. She didn't care about the punishment. She wrote an apology letter and showed it off, claiming it as proof of her love for me. If any guy confessed to her, she'd straight up tell them she's into someone named Ben. She'd brave a snowstorm to find a stand selling roasted sweet potatoes. She'd cover it with her heart, keeping it warm for me. Every single day, she'd ask, "Did you catch feelings today? Can I be your girlfriend?" Everyone knew Tina from University A was all about Ben. I mean, with how persistent she was, it was hard not to fall for her. Eventually, I made a bet. If she won a race, I'd go out with her. I pretended to lose, opening myself up to be vulnerable. I met Eric 5 years earlier than in the last lifetime. He joined our class as a special admission due to his excellent grades. He introduced himself, and there was a hint of hatred in his eyes when he looked at me. We shouldn't have known each other unless he's reborn too. When Eric started talking to Tina, I couldn't help but watch. She thought I was jealous and started treating him nicely. She'd bring him breakfast, which used to be my thing. She'd take water he handed to her on the field and let him sit beside her, offering help. She wanted me to know I wasn't her only one. Back then, jealousy would consume me. When Eric started at the company, I brought her dinner, afraid she'd skip meals and get stomach problems. I saw her closely guiding Eric, and it stung. She hadn't looked at me like that in a long time. Eric was confused, and she laughed, saying he was so stupid. She'd explain again. It made my eyes water with envy. She once promised to guide only me. I asked her coldly what she was doing. I glared at Eric, saying he was hired to work, not flirt with the boss. Eric looked embarrassed. "Don't misunderstand, Tina," he said. "I just have questions. Check my computer if you want." She told me not to stir up trouble. "These files are needed by tomorrow. If Eric can't do the job, we don't need him." Eric pleaded, worried about his dad's reaction if he lost his job. Tina, annoyed, dragged me away. That night, we argued over Eric for the first time. I said my gut told me his intentions were off. She said I was paranoid. Finally, she promised to let her assistant teach him and even showed me surveillance footage. Yet now I felt strangely calm. I closed the book I was reading and walked out, hearing her kick a chair and curse at Eric. "Leave me the hell alone. If you can't understand, ask a teacher. I'm not obliged to help," she yelled. Eric followed me into the bathroom, smirking. Hey Ben, he said. I wasn't interested in chatting and tried to leave, but he blocked my way. Stop pretending, he said. You recognized me the moment you saw me. You're back too, Ben. Just like last time, you won't win. He then started telling me how Tina left me for him in our past lives. On Valentine's Day, he'd call her, saying his father hurt him again. She'd drive to his home, taking care of his father and offering money to keep him away. That explains why she rushed off after a call and came back with a bruised hand, claiming work issues. On our 6th anniversary, Eric called about a storm and old fears of his father's abuse resurfaced. She left me an apology present, said her mom was sick and suggested I not tag along. Her mom's always had it in for me. She thinks I did something outrageous at my dad's birthday party. In her eyes, I'm wild and uncontrollable, not a fit for the Liu family. Apparently, they need a son-in-law who's obedient. Because I loved her, I tolerated her mom's sarcastic remarks, thinking maybe she's just worried about her mom's health and that's why she told me not to come. But there I was, sitting alone with a table full of cold food I'd painstakingly prepared, trying to figure out how to really get her mom to accept me. Meanwhile, she was comforting some other guy, whispering sweet nothings. Turns out she'd cheated multiple times, giving what used to be her favoritism towards me to another guy without hesitation. Claiming to love me while showing care for him. Absolutely disgusting. He recounted his story with a satisfied grin, hoping to see sadness or anger in my eyes. Even after literally dying once, knowing all this betrayal still stung. I calmly wiped my palms, trying hard to keep my face neutral. Not everyone treasures trash forever. If you like that kind of garbage, keep it locked up. But it's a shame she doesn't seem interested in you now. Eric suddenly flipped out, throwing himself on the ground, slapping his own face till it turned red, messing up his uniform, and tearing at his hair. He looked at me with a twisted grin. Ben, if you bully me because of jealousy, what will people say? You already don't have the best reputation. People won't believe you. You're destined to lose to me. I just watched him, unimpressed by his antics. Even being reborn didn't seem to clear his head. If anything, he got more foolish. All this fuss for a woman like that? Totally not worth it. Rumors spread wildly at school about me bullying Eric. The school forum said I was two-faced, refusing Tina's advances but attacking any guys that got close to her. Teachers called me in to talk, worried about the school's reputation since Eric got admitted based on his grades. Thanks to my family's background, all the backlash was just whispers behind my back. Most couldn't afford to openly offend Ben, until one media outlet exposed my deeds. They used a censored photo of Eric with bruises on his arms, back, and legs, crying for help, claiming to fight someone so powerful he was trapped. Then more people who secretly disliked me came forward, saying a bunch of nonsense about me being a serial bully. They even produced a picture of me supposedly hitting someone, claimed I raced cars recklessly, crashed into someone, resulting in permanent disability. They even dragged up an incident where my stepmom attacked me with a knife, twisted it to make me seem like such a rebellious nightmare even my parents had to resort to violence. The internet blew up. My personal info got leaked. Comments popped up everywhere. People sharing their own bullying ordeals, blaming people like me for their lifelong trauma, saying things like, "Rich folks think they can get away with anything. Authorities better step in. This kind of scum shouldn't ever go to school again. Record it on their file." I was public enemy number one. Everyone demanded my expulsion. At school, the stares I got were full of suspicion and disdain. Right after this exploded, Tina approached me. She didn't care if I actually bullied Eric. At first, she was happy, thinking I targeted Eric because of her. She held my hand tight, asking if I cared about her. "Fake," I said. "I never laid a hand on him." She froze for a second, then looked at me like she was a savior. "Ben, the situation's already out of hand. No one's gonna believe it's fake even if you say it. I can help squash all those stories, just as long you're nice to me." "No way," I replied coolly with just 3 words. Tina seemed hurt by my attitude. Her eyes reddened slightly, looking all pitiful. "I've been so good to you. Even a stone would warm up by now. Ben, you have no heart. Why can't you just give it a shot? No need. Because I've already tried. I lost terribly. Over the years, her love faded while mine only grew deeper. She once looked at me like a treasure, telling me she couldn't wait until we were old enough to marry, so I could be hers forever. But when we actually could get married, she said nothing about it. Even my otherwise distant father would ask about our wedding plans, but she'd just say, let's wait. I became sensitive, compromising again and again, turning into what I hated, someone so unlike myself. I shrank from facing the unfixable cracks in our relationship. Watching her desperately try to mend things, I kept making excuses for her in my head, hoping she'd change because she loved me once. I let those once sweet memories soften me, forgiving over and again, ignoring the signs of her betrayal. In the end, I paid 6 years of my life and even my life itself. No need to keep making the same mistakes. She looked at me, love lingering in her eyes. I won't give up so easy. Just when Eric was gleefully planning to get me booted from school for good, I called in all the media, agreed to a personal interview, and brought in people involved in those incidents to explain. Well, except my stepmom, since, she's still in jail. About that picture of me supposedly hitting someone, well, they came at me first for money. I merely defended myself, which is why they ended up on the ground. The person themselves came forward to clarify. At that time, the guy's grandmother was sick. I loaned him money and he realized extortion was wrong. Now, post-reform from juvenile detention, he's working security at my company. I gave him a job and helped save his grandma, and he's grateful for that. The racer they said I crippled personally cleared things up, too. His car malfunctioned and almost skidded off the track into a cliff. I was just stopping a car. If it weren't for me, he might not have just ended up injured. He could have died. I didn't replay the video of my stepmom. After all, we're students and it's not for kids to see. I only shared the apology letter she sent me, where she admitted to how she used to abuse me. She was in the wrong. Going to jail was what she deserved. The reason she wrote the letter was to ask me for a forgiveness letter. Of course, I didn't write one. Once the media saw I had cleared things up, they quickly shoved microphones in my face. They asked, even if other stuff was just rumors spread by netizens, the school bullying incident is real, right? The person involved is also from your school. If it were fake, you'd probably have that person clear things up, just like you did with these folks, right? Right then, Eric stood not far away, watching me, eyes full to the brim with resentment. I pointed in his direction, telling them he's right there. Why not ask him yourself? Eric, never one to miss a chance to perform, immediately teared up. I don't know what I did wrong. I just asked Tina for help with a question. Because I'm poor, does that mean I deserve to be looked down on? Ben, if you're bullying me out of jealousy, what will people say? Anyway, you don't have a great reputation. No one would believe you. You're destined to be my loser. I played a recording on my phone of him saying this to me in the bathroom. No cameras there, and the injuries on him were self-inflicted later. He didn't expect me to have a recording. He should have known I could get my stepmom's video when I was 18. The day he was following me, I had already secretly turned on my phone to record our conversation. I didn't clear things up at first because I wanted to see how far he would go. The more he escalated things, the worse it would be for him in the end. Eric stood there, shocked and crying. A man suddenly burst through the crowd, wearing a tattered plaid shirt, with hands full of cracks. He slapped Eric hard across the face. You ungrateful boy. Where have you been all these years? Leaving me to fend for myself? Eric's eyes showed infinite terror as he called out shakily, Dad. Turns out this was his father who always abused him. I'll beat you, the man yelled. Your mom ran off with another man when you were 3. You look just like her with that nasty face. And now you have the nerve to run off too? Think getting into a good college means you can abandon me? The man cried hysterically about how hard it was to raise a son alone all these years. Now Eric wants nothing to do with him. The media watched, not intervening, swarming like vultures, taking photos. Eric, who moments ago was in the spotlight, was now frantically trying to swat away cameras, screaming for them not to take pictures. The man tried dragging Eric home, saying his grandma was bedridden with worry. Eric broke free, grabbing my hand. In front of everyone, he knelt and begged, "Help me. I won't compete with you anymore. I can't go back." I looked down at him, calmly asking, "When you recorded that video accusing me of bullying you, didn't you think about this moment? I'm not a saint. Why should I repay evil with good?" He broke down, tried to hit me, but Tina kicked him down to the ground. No longer able to hold back, he screamed, "Why is this happening? I just wanted to be with you sooner. You told me you were tired of Ben. You said if you met me earlier, you'd choose me." Tina, with her once loving eyes now cold, looked at him and spat, "Psycho." I regarded him sadly. I didn't hate him, because even without him, there'd be others later. He happened to show up at the wrong time. He thought he was special to Tina, not realizing he was just someone she hadn't secured yet. I was her first love she couldn't have. How could a pursuer compare to a man out of reach? Given the chance to start over, he foolishly chose to approach this jerk earlier. His father dragged him out of the campus, the photographers close behind. Tina looked at me, telling me she was the one who brought Eric's father here, so he could never bother me again. I scoffed at her. "You're so low. You planted those media stories, didn't you? Apart from you, who else in the North City would dare mess with the Ben family?" She tightened her lips, looked at me in silence. After a long pause, she said, "I just wanted you to rely on me, to compromise." I replied, "Being with me isn't good enough? You make me sick. Get out of my life. You're putting me through hell and trying to play the hero. Maybe you never loved me. Maybe you just liked the idea of a rose growing wild in the fields, succumbing and getting rid of its thorns for you. Enjoyed the thrill of conquest." Her face twitched, the humiliation evident, her clenched fingers bloodless, her face pale. She cried, voice trembling, "What do I have to do to make you love me?" No longer the high and mighty Tina, she was pathetically begging someone for the first time. Her love was real now, but her fickle ways made me nauseous. I playfully replied, "Why don't you die a little? Maybe then I'll regret it and pull a grand gesture at your funeral," sobbing over how much I loved you. After saying that, I turned and walked away without looking back. I applied to be an exchange student. I was done with this endless back and forth with Tina. The day it got approved, I was kidnapped. I woke up in a deserted villa and saw Tina, who I hadn't seen in days, now emaciated. She no longer looked carefree and was painfully sinister. I glared at her coldly, eyes filled with hatred I'd never felt before. She lifted her hand to touch my eyes. Her voice was full of something heavy and choked up. "Ben, don't look at me like that. It hurts my heart." I lost it too and asked her, hysterically, why she kept clinging to me. "Haven't I made it clear that I don't want to see you anymore?" She was like a ghost haunting me, reminding me of the past I despised. Yet I was the only one who remembered. I hated her. Hated that after her unique affection for me, she just dumped me. But after everything, my hatred was fading. All that was left was disgust. I just didn't want to be tangled up anymore. I wanted a fresh start. "Are you leaving?" "Yes." "Is it because of me?" "Yes." Pain and unwillingness flashed through her eyes. "Ben, I've been dreaming on and off about us together for 6 years. We were almost about to get married. But when I wake up, I realize it's just a dream. But if it's a dream, why does it feel so real?" "For real?" She looked at me with hope, but then fear filled her eyes. If she really remembered our past life, she wouldn't just see the sweet parts. She'd see how she changed her heart, deceived me over and over for another man. She'd see me dead on the street. What was she doing then? Comforting another man in his shock? She murmured it was all real, but I saw there was no spark between her and Eric. "I just wanted to make you mad. How could I change my heart for him?" Everything from the past surged back. She saw all that happened, yet dared to kidnap me? I told her through clenched teeth, "Because you're despicable. Go ahead, curse me. As long as you don't leave me," she whispered, pulling me into an embrace. I bit down hard on her shoulder. How dare she, after everything she had done, still not let me go? Though her shoulder was bleeding, she held tight, hot tears falling on my neck. I only loved you. Eric was a momentary distraction. I never meant to leave you. I really wanted to marry you. I don't know what got into me then, but whenever he called, I just had to leave you to see him. I felt guilty. I swallowed the bloody taste in my mouth. What's the point in telling me all this? Tina, you're worse than my dad. At least he doesn't pretend. But you, hiding in the dark like a rat, doing dirty deeds and claiming to love me. Your love is worth less than grass. She said she'd never turn me into my mom. She knew betrayal was the thing I hated most. If she'd broken up with me the moment she changed her heart, at least I wouldn't have wasted so much time. Her eyes were red, and her face was wet with tears, gripping my shoulder tight. I just made a mistake any woman could make. In the past life, you died. And when I found out, I was heartbroken. Drank myself silly, the company collapsed, got stomach cancer, and within a year I followed you. As for Eric, I never loved him. We can start over. I won't betray you this time. I love you, really. Please don't torture me anymore. Don't leave me. She paused, took out a ring from her pocket, and knelt before me. Ben, this diamond, I found it myself in the mines. The design, a rose, I sketched it. The moment I saw you, you were like a thorned rose, making me fall for you. You're my unique blue diamond. In the past life, when we were about to marry, even the ring he proposed with was one meant for a client, just an excuse. Tina, there's no chance for a do-over. Hearing the sirens outside, I watched the officers rush in and pin her to the ground. Her expensive ring hit the floor, but I didn't glance at it once. After my throat was cut in the past, I'd installed an emergency alert and GPS on my phone, just in case. I'd already hit the quick alert button earlier while she was hysterically grabbing me. Sometimes you just need to call the cops. She tried to resist but got kicked and cuffed quickly. I was untied. Tina, you'll never have another chance to entangle with me. I looked at her, mouthed silently, goodbye forever. The next time I heard about Tina, I was 2 months into being a student exchange in France. A former classmate called, saying Tina was dying from multiple organ failure. Eric had stabbed her multiple times. Eric's dad had taken him back, not to visit his grandma, but because he got sold off for a bride price to a 50-something bachelor from the village. The old guy was abusive and had weird likes. Eric was mocked everywhere, even as a college student from a prestigious school. What did it matter? Sold to an old dude anyway. After managing to escape, Eric waited outside the police station, hoping Tina would help him out. Tina's family worked hard to get Eric out on bail. First day out, seeing Eric there, Tina was annoyed, telling him to go deal with his family drama himself, that it's a cop's job, not hers. Eric's family was all for the arranged marriage, calling him a troublemaker. Going home meant more beatings. He couldn't stand her abandoning him and went at Tina with a knife, ranting crazy stuff about their past lives and betrayals. Eric was eventually declared mentally unstable and sent to a mental institution. After the call about Eric, I simply said, "That's unfortunate," and hung up. I put on my helmet, riding my bike up the mountain paths, feeling the summer breeze. Ben, reborn from the ashes, your long and beautiful life is just beginning. Embrace all its endless possibilities. Charge ahead.